Hi, it's Chris Watkin here with the next ICG webinar, and we are today joined by the cream of UK estate agency and John Paul. Sorry for joking. And also some of the best PropTech solutions to talk about the hot topic of what does life look like as an estate agent in 2021 once we've had these two lockdowns. We're going to be talking about what the market has done in 2020 with these agents, how they've adapted and improved themselves. And then what we will then do is plan and work what we're going to be doing to talk about what the future looks like in 2021 and how not only you can thrive, but survive. Because we don't know where the market's going to go. There might be some curveballs, but the magic thing is this: plan for the worst, hope for the best. So firstly, I'd like to go to the agents and introduce them. And firstly, today we have Luke St Clair from Knightsbridge Estate Agents, and he's in Leicestershire, and he runs a 3-branch operation, very well-known agent and known as Mr. Leicester Property. We have Mike Nettleton, who is the chairman of Dayton, which is a 6-branch estate agency operation based in Shropshire. We've got John Paul, the awesome MD and CEO of the Castle Dean Group. He owns in excess of 10, if not more, estate agency branches over a couple of branches. And then, just as I said, whilst we're doing the intros, let's just do a quick intro. We've got Trevor Ewens from MRI coming on in a little bit. We've got Matt Goddard from the awesome Repit, Steve Rad from Inventory Base, Mr. New Homes himself, Kevin Ellis, Kristjan Byfield, who's both the boss man of the depository, but also he's a letting agent as well in sunny Shoreditch in London. We've got Amy Shields from Spriff, the PropTech data people. We've got Simon Taylor from Yondell, so say hello, Simon. And then finally, we've got the amazing Ben Sellers from Starbury. And again, just want to say thank you to Diana, who's from the ICG, who's organising this in the background, because it wasn't her, we wouldn't be able to sort this out. So firstly, I'd like to go to the agents first and kick off with Luke St Clair. If you had to describe 2020 as an estate agent, how would you describe it, Luke?
Exciting. It's made you make sure that you've got a resilient business plan, but also a plan for various scenarios. But it's been exciting and one that's allowed us to change and pivot.
Okay. I mean, it's been a tough year. How did you cope with that? Those few months off. I mean, did you put everyone on furlough?
No, so we've got 37 members of staff. We kept a third of them fully engaged. The remainder of them that couldn't really fulfil their duties went on to furlough. So throughout the whole of lockdown, we kept the communication going, and some of that communication wasn't even about selling homes. It was just about checking in with people, just to have a friendly chat. We want to be part of the community, and that's what we pride ourselves on. And sometimes it wasn't just about, do you want to sell your house? This is an update. This is what's going on. It's just, how are you? Okay,
let's go to Mike Nettleton in Shropshire. Mike, 2020, you know, I don't want to know the numbers, but are you going to end up on where you kind of expected, even though we had 2 or 3 months off in the early part of the year?
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's our projections. Yeah. I think we've been really lucky as an industry throughout COVID, because there's other industries that haven't been as fortunate. And if for those of us who can remember 2008, you know, that there wasn't the pollution of cash swilling around in the economy, the handouts from the right moves, the repits, the government, the council. So we haven't got much of an excuse. It's just, but it is all going to come down to the last couple of weeks in terms of, the infrastructure of solicitors to actually get the deals across the line and get those exchanges and completions in. That's a $64,000 question as far as this year is concerned at the minute.
Okay, let's go to John Paul in the Northeast. John, how's 2020 been for you as an agent?
A bit of a roller coaster. I can't quite put as positive a spin on it as Luke did. I don't think anybody knew what had happened in the first lockdown. So let's be honest, if you didn't panic, you're a bit of a robot. So we just didn't know what had happened. We furloughed the staff, exactly like what Luke and no doubt Michael had done. It was all about communication. What can we do to help and support our staff? Selling houses was the last thing on our mind. But because we've got such a large lettings portfolio, that really carried us through, especially when you consider you furlough your staff, but you still got a couple of thousand houses under management. But it's definitely been a roller coaster. I'm glad to say we're all out at the other side now, and it's looking a very positive end to a roller coaster year.
What was your lowest point, JP, in all this?
Probably the rugby getting called off, if I'm honest.
But in terms of the property, you know, can you remember your day where basically you thought to yourself, I'm going to use technical language here, shit.
The not knowing during the first lockdown. Again, we'd literally got a plan A, B, C, what branches we were going to shut down or merge, staff. We had it literally planned out. We are very fortunate to have a big lettings portfolio that we would have continued to survive. It was just a matter of what harsh.
I must be as a human being, though, what was your lowest point and how did you dig yourself out of it? What did you say to yourself mentally, your mindset? Because again, it's very easy to try and sell things and say, oh, it's all positive, but you know, we're all human beings here. And like you said, we're not robots. How did you dig yourself out of that? Because I mean, even I had a wobble.
Yeah, you just man the hell up, don't you? You just stop twisting, feeling sorry for yourself and you just get on with it. I'm not trying to be big and tough in front of everybody here, but you know, I think you know me well enough. I'm not going to sit and twist and cry my cornflakes. You get on with it. You make your decisions as best for your people first, your business second. So long as that, obviously, it's not to the detriment of your business. But you know, having a wobble, locking yourself into a room, you're not going to solve any problems or help your staff, your community, or your business. So you've just got to man up, make the tough decisions, or woman up, and then just get on with it.
I'd like to go back to Luke. Luke, your staff actually bought you a present and a placard or something, which basically said you were the best boss. What did you do to actually make them do that during lockdown? Because again, there's a lot of estate agents watching this, and this is not a platform to try and sell any PropTech. This is a platform to try and help the guys out there. You know, you as well as Mike and JP are very well known estate agents. What did you do to try and help your staff? How did you cope and, more importantly, thrive and not just survive?
Yeah, so I mean, we did. I think a lot of businesses did daily Zoom calls, but we did them twice a day, morning and afternoon check-ins, and sometimes that may just be, "How are you?" rather than talking about what did you do yesterday, but how is everyone? Everyone that was on furlough, we sent out newsletters. So rather than sending it out by email, we did posts. So we sent them a postal newsletter on what the company is doing, what we're changing, what's exciting coming along. We've not forgotten about you. And we sent, I believe, 4, maybe 5 of those. Some of them were as long as 6 pages, maybe too long for some people, but they were good. Lots of content. But also we held kind of social gatherings. So whether or not that was bingo. So we did bingo, we did quiz nights. Again, I know a lot of the country turned towards those kind of interactions on Zoom, but we did it to involve the team. So, and you do it because you've got 37 people depending upon your leadership to get them through it. It's not just you. And like what John Paul said, you have to pull your big boy pants up and kind of get on with it. You've got 37 other people that are depending upon you to steer the ship, and you've got a lead, and you've got to sometimes find solutions to the problems that you don't know how to solve at that moment in time. But and I think anything that this exercise has taught us is that, and John Paul talked about it, not knowing. So we've all kind of criticised the government for not giving us information. And I think we need to learn from that to make sure that we communicate that to the staff, because that if we're going to criticise and be hypocrites about the government doing that to us maybe or other people, then we need to make sure that we're giving that information to our teams, but also then think about it from a customer's perspective. It's probably one of the most challenging times someone goes through buying and selling, renting homes, and it's that not knowing. And we've all been through that with the whole pandemic. And our customers are going through that with every interaction that we may have with them. So use that to your advantage and emphasize with your team that that's what we're here to do. And they did. They brought me a nice gift. They brought me a lovely hamper with an Amazon voucher and a card saying kind of best boss and that kind of thing. And that's great. And that's great because it makes it all worth it.
Let's go to Mike Nettleton, and then we'll bring in the PropTech guys. Mike, I don't know how many staff you must employ, but it must be 70, 80, I'm guessing, if not more.
No, about 50.
50. Oh, you keep a tight ship. You must come from the JP school. How do you feel about worrying about having to pay 50 people's wages because it's their mortgages?
Yeah, I think you've got to take that really seriously, haven't you? But at the beginning of all this, I did announce to the company that we would not be making any redundancies. And then fortunately, Rishi came up trumps and kind of helped us out with that. But, we have not made any redundancies this year. We have, very clear systems, processes, targets, etc. And as long as from the staff's point of view, they have a very clear expectation what they expect at the end of each month, and so do we. So it's been a really good process from our point of view, because we've put a hell of a lot of infrastructure in over the last 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden it suddenly clicked and made a lot of sense to everybody as to why we'd done it. So we've had a very positive experience off the back of 2020.
Okay, so let's look at that. I'm a firm believer, and this is a quote from JP. I borrowed this from him, so thank you, JP. Out of adversity comes opportunity. Let's look at how you adopted and adapted, improved in 2020. We're going to talk about what we can do in 2021 with regard to your technology, your staff, your processes, your marketing, and even your new homes. So let's go to Kevin Ellis now, because he really is the king of new homes in the UK. Kevin, what have the great agents done in 2020 to help them with new homes? Because if you think about it, when it does come to new homes, they're the ones that have got to sell. And especially if we are going to go into a recession next year, which, some people say it might not, who knows? Actually, new homes is always quite a good sales income driver for estate agents. So Kevin, what have the best agents done when it comes to new homes? And then eventually we'll look at marketing processes, staff and technology, and we'll start bouncing around. So if anyone's got any points to start, putting your hands up. Let's go new homes. Let's go Kevin first. Kevin.
I think, first of all, the best agents really leverage their innovation to house builders really quickly. The problem with house builders were actually in awe of what agents had done in the first part of lockdown. So the whole piece around doing virtual viewings, all of that, they were well behind. On that. And I remember talking to Pygott and Crone at the time, who installed sort of Ring devices that if anyone wanted to go down on site, then you've got the Matterport stuff all coming in, and developers just weren't prepared for that. You're absolutely right, though, that the developers are absolutely the most motivated seller out there at the moment. And if we just look at the stats of stock that's sitting in the UK today, unsold, that's been listed with agents for months and months and months, that's all carrying into 2021. So any loyalty that there was to an agent at that point is going to soon wane if that agent hasn't adapted. And I think the biggest one out of all of this was that where a lot of the corporate agents had control on a lot of new homes instructions, the corporates were the first to furlough hard, and actually a number of these house builders felt completely abandoned by the agents. So from an independence point of view, they've mopped up bulk deals being done, all sorts of, I think I heard one of our members earlier in the week, I think they'd written about 120 grand's worth of fees in the last 4 weeks off of 2 very substantial land deals they've done, which, weren't even on the deck in September. So, out of any market, as my old boss Dale used to say at Romans, every market makes a market. And I think new homes is going to be much more prevalent for agents going into 21.
Okay, whilst we're talking new homes, I do know Luke's got something to say on that. But before we kick off on that, JP or Mike, have you been heavily involved with new homes in 2020? Put your hands up if you've got something to say.
No, that's it.
You put your hand up, JP. That's what you do if you want to say. JP first. Go for it.
No, we don't get involved in new homes. That's actually forming part of our strategy moving forward. So we've letting agency first. We've acquired estate agents. We've got a couple of acquisitions going through, but that is something that once we consolidate all the brands and consolidate all the systems and processes, that we'll be looking forward to, and I'll be sure to be getting in touch with Kevin.
Top man, he is the king of new homes. Let's go to Mike Nettleton in Shropshire. Talk to us about how you've adopted and adapted your new homes proposition in 2021.
Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing you need to do is speak to Kevin, really, in as much as there's lots of different markets out there, be that the auctions market, new homes market, the high net worth, the volume market. There's a whole range, isn't there, really? So I think it's really important that you've got a clear proposition as far as the new homes is concerned, because as Kevin would tell you, it's a slightly different beast. So you've got to be able to kind of talk the language, and you've got to have something that actually works for the developers. And they're very keen to talk to you, actually, but you've got to have something kind of worth saying when you get there.
we'll come to Luke in a second, because I know Luke, before we were in the green room, you were showing us something which I'd like you to show to the world in a second. I think the important thing to remember, though, is in a good market, there is such thing as a new build premium, where a house actually sells for more than what the second-hand value is. But if you actually go hunting around the Office of National Statistics, which is apart from liking craft beer, is one of my other hobbies. Actually, in a recession, a brand new property will sell for less per square foot than a second-hand one. So if we do go into recession in 2021, you've got motivated vendors, and you've also got properties that will sell below second-hand value, as opposed to, instead of a new build premium, it's a new build. I don't know. JP, your plan. What's the opposite of a word of a premium? A discount. A new build discount. There you go. That is a fact. Office of National Statistics have proved that properties sell per square foot less in a recession. In 08, 09, you've really got to focus on those new homes. So let's go to Luke St Clair. What are you doing to attract new homes builders, Luke?
It's a lot of it's relationships, and it's building that relationships, because trying to sometimes put a dent into maybe your competitors that have already got that good relationship. There is a chink in the armour somewhere, and quite often that's with poor communication. So prime example is an assisted move that we got involved with one of the large corporates. They've not introduced any buyers, they've not been communicating with the developer. We've both had it on the market for the same amount of time, and lo and behold, we're the ones that have been communicating. We have our Land and New Homes guy that pops down to the site just to update them on what's happening. We've sold it, we've had multiple buyers want it, and we've got a great case study from it, and we can then replicate that going forward to all the other house builders, but also not just the big boys. We're trying to attract the smaller SME builders with giving them information to make their job easier. But also we then become that Google of the new homes market in Leicester for them.
Could you just show on the screen now, you've actually done a newsletter purely for new homes builders, haven't you?
Yeah, it's quite an in-depth newsletter, which is specifically targeted towards new homes. So this is the LNB edition, or Land and New Homes and Builders. So it gives them information about for example, the Matterport. So how we're embracing 3D technology to get buyers through the door. Now, we don't agree any lets now, and without having a Matterport tour. We don't do physical viewings. The only time they do a physical viewing is just to confirm, yeah, it's the same as the Matterport, I'll still have it. So we brought that ratio down from probably 12, 13, 14 viewings per let agreed down to 1 or 2. Same for sales agreed now. We were running at roughly 1 in 30. So 30 viewings to get a sale agreed. We're down to 12 just by embracing the different technologies out there. So we're emphasising how we can then provide that benefit to the house builders, but also introduce buyers that we can't find homes to, because Kevin will talk about it. Someone on site will probably only see 2 people over a weekend. As an agency, we're probably meeting and greeting 30, 40 people, and not all of those people will buy a home from us. And if we can introduce them onto a new home site, that's where our value to bring to the table is for these new home builders.
Excellent, thank you, Luke. And again, if I'm sure if people contact you, you'll send them a copy, because I tell you what, it is an amazing bit of kit, the Land and New Homes Builder, because you're creating content, classic content marketing, which is of interest and relevance to the potential client, which in your case is the builders. And again, if we are going to have a tough 2021, then at least you've got motivated vendors who will probably be a little bit more flexible on their pricing because they need the cash. Okay, let's go to Kevin.
Yeah, I think the point that what Luke's done within that in that document, which we've succinctly put in a lot of pitch documents to house builders, at the moment, visitor traffic to sites is very, very low because house builders are absolutely popping themselves about having too many visitors down to site. What they are seeing is when you can visualize the activity that an agency like Luke's got, or Mike, or whoever. We've had one client where they've picked up a 70 grand contract just by visualizing that one sheet, because the developer was in the up the creek without a paddle because they just weren't getting enough visitor traffic through. In the same way, you're going to see the spin-off business that comes from new home sites. We've got one client who this year they've had over 100 grand's worth of fees purely from the spin-off business, i.e. house to sell viewers that are going into site have just been preferred agent. And to be fair, most agents don't even bother going to visit the site. So, it's pretty basic and easy win really by my book.
There you go. Right, let's move on to technology, and I'd like to pull up the power of the CRMs. Today we're joined by Matt from Repit and obviously Trevor Ewins from MRI. Matt and Trevor, let's go to Matt first. A criticism of a lot of CRMs is that it's like a big black hole that they suck the data in and then it never comes out, and next, it's not like the old days of hot boxes and things like that. Some of us, some of us that are young wouldn't know what a hot box is, but some of us with grey hair do remember the old days of hot boxes where you actually match people. Do you think CRMs have held estate agents back, and what can estate agents do to make their CRMs work better for them? Because if it's all about having great tech, but if you don't use it well, then there's no point in having it. Matt.
No, absolutely. I think I addressed that head on as well, Chris. I think Repit personally, I've been here 8 and a bit years. We've been guilty of being quite insular, whether it's with the data that our clients are able to access via, let's say, poor web services, or via the relationships we have with partners. There's a lot that I'd probably describe as incumbents who've been there since Simon, George, Dominic back 23 years ago were involved, who just sort of are along for the ride and deal with it from that point of view. But that's sort of been the focus for us over the last 3 years since we completed the management buyout of flipping that on its head. How do we help our clients, especially, and not by any means obviously expected, but through 2020, where we've seen our user numbers take quite a significant drop, obviously reflective of people going on furlough and the challenges that we've had. And I know some agents who went quite aggressively, quite hard, and made a lot of people redundant before furlough got announced. And that's a difficult time to work through for agents. But the great story on that is we've now seen those user numbers recover to the levels that you would expect pre-COVID, which is great to see, indicative of how positive people are in lockdown 2.0 as well. From a family point of view, both my brothers work in agency, and they're still on the phones and they're still booking valuations. One of them very much focused on new homes as well. But from a tech point of view, I think where we sort of did this sneak preview of foundations last year, which was very much turning on its head and having us at the centre of that ecosystem for people to work with, helping agents and partners do the two-way data is key. And foundation is much more than that, but I think to put it bluntly, it just helps remove that double entry of data for agents in multiple systems and so much more. But that's really crucial, I think, to helping see what 2021 can do for agents and independent agents as well.
Before we go to Trevor, I just want to quickly go around the 4 agents in the room. And in one sentence, what do you wish your CRM did more of and less of? Mike first.
Integration. And what did it do less of? To be fair, it does everything. So yeah, it's not.
Who do you have? Who do you have? You have Repit. Okay. Let's go to Kristjan in Shoreditch, which I originally always thought he came from Greenwich, but I was knocked down last week, so my apologies. Kristjan,
yeah.
What do you wish your CRM did more of and less of?
I'm going to second what Mike said. For me, it is just an integrated environment of all the different products and apps out there talking to one another. It's not just about duplicated data entry. That's actually, although it's a boring bit, it's actually a minor consideration of it. It's just extracting that proper value. And what that delivers both in terms of agents efficiency, conversion rates, consumer experience. We're at a really exciting phase now with this. I think, over the next 12 to 24 months, this fully integrated landscape is going to come to fruition. You've got the likes of MRI and Repit sort of leading the way with the integrations and the environments that they're creating. And yeah, I think it's really exciting. What a lot of us have been chomping and ranting about for about 10 years. We're now on the cusp of realizing that. And I think like I said, in the next sort of 1 to 2 years, the landscape of tech and services that agents will have at their fingertips, fully integrated, is gonna, I think, genuinely blow agents' minds when they actually see how this stuff works.
Well,
at its optimum integration.
Because the PropTech one, they're promising nirvana, and so far we're not seeing it. Let's go to Luke. Luke, I don't want to know unless you want to say, but what do you wish your CRM did more and less of?
So more intelligent automation and streamlining the back office functions that will allow us to focus more on the front end functions of serving the customer. So no, we use our own, and we've always had our own CRM. So we've based it upon Salesforce and using the property-based platform, so we can pick and choose the top suppliers that we want to integrate with, and we're not restricted. We're restricted by our imagination, basically.
Good stuff. Good. So let's go to JP in the Northeast. What do you wish your CRM did more of and less of?
Integration, just to back up what Kristjan said. I mean, we use Reapit. Very happy with the actual functionality of it. I think we are just on the cusp of, once we get foundations and get across. I mean, if you don't mind, Matt, putting a good word for us, will you please? We're in the second trench. We want to get stopped across. And then the thing I wish it didn't do is every time I phoned up, or our guys phoned up, and we just asked, hi, how are you doing? It says, can you book a ticket, please? Can you raise a ticket? Everything we ask them, it's always, can you raise a ticket? We just need the answers to the questions so we can move on. But Reapit is a fantastic system. I bleat on about it all the time on the forums about how awesome it is in terms of the functionality, and I'm really impressed with the foundations.
Probably next time, let's get some more MRI people on, because I'm worried for Trevor. Trevor, what do you think? Where do you think the CRM providers could be better and work, at helping agents? And again, I think the one with JP is. Oh, before you say, could you send me a ticket in? Because I won't be able to answer the question first. Go on.
I mean, I'm going to be magnanimous and mirror Matt's comments, really. But yeah, we've got App Gateway, which is essentially the same principle as Foundations, and there are people on this call who we're well advanced in discussions with in terms of how we integrate with their models. So that integration piece, we're hoping 2021 will really move us forward in that, in the same way as Foundations does. And I've said all along, Foundations was a great message for the market, because by the largest player in the market coming out with this messaging, it helped us drive forward our open and connected message ourselves that we've had for years, but we've just been not great at getting out there. So it's almost Matt's marketing effort has helped us in that sense. So from our point of view, the lockdown and moving forward, it's felt very much that we've been able to look a little bit more insular and get more advances internally in terms of how we get stuff delivered. Now we're back into the phase of trying to deliver some of that stuff. So it makes us that bit more focused on what we're delivering out to market. But we definitely recognize that a lot of the solutions that sit around the edges of the core, which is what essentially we both are really taking away a lot of that horrible process heavy, person heavy work that needs to go away. And I look at what Mike's done up there, and I don't know if he wants to talk about it, but just that small piece that he's put in place, you said, Chris, is one of the best things you've seen for a long time. It's a known issue that really COVID forced the market to recognize and do something about. And you sit there afterwards and think, why didn't we do this before? But the lockdown has allowed us as an industry, I think, to look at a number of these areas. You look at what Kristjan's up to and say, hold on, these are the bits that we need to take away the dead wood from, the dead effort, because you're paying people to just say no half the time, or paying people to do non-productive activity. It's probably the right way to put it. So, and we're very much bought into that, and hopefully people will see that during 2021.
Good stuff. Mike, because you're not allowed to do any selling on these webinars, otherwise you get slapped. So I'm going to sell it for you, okay? Basically, Mike's created this app, which basically when a tenant applies for a rental property, it sends them a web link through their phone, and they have to put their name and address and their telephone number in, and also attach an Experian credit history file. So what he's doing is he's cutting his viewers down from 50 leads on a Monday morning to 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 that are bothered to fill their details in, and then he's sorting the wheat out from the chaff. That's it. What's it called, Mike? You can only say the name, but there's no selling here, because otherwise you get slapped and you get banned.
Agent response.
There you go. Good stuff. Other PropTech solutions out there are available. Good stuff. Right. Okay. Let's move on to. We're going to come on to staff and processes, because again, we are in a people business, and again, if we're playing estate agency bingo, we've had heavy lifting. So I hope whoever had that on their estate agency ICG bingo, that's been covered. and we're in a people business. So again, that's covered on the bingo. Let's move on and talk. We're going to talk about staff and processes, which I know the agents around this table are absolutely amazing at. But I want to talk about marketing. Okay, so but before we do that, I'd like to go to Simon Taylor from Yondell. Simon, you run a one thing I've been particularly impressed with is your sentiment index, where basically you're actually, because a lot of people are using searches, going online, going to agents' websites, using the virtual chat, you've seen an uplift, and you can actually see on almost within the week what leads are coming in for vendor leads, buyer leads, vendor lead, landlord, basically everyone. Where are we at the moment on the sentiment index in terms of where we were 6 months, 3 months ago, or a month ago, and a year ago?
Yeah, it's a great question, and yeah, and I guess 6 months ago certainly, and you'll have heard Andy talk about it since. We saw this massive explosion in the use of online digital conversation channels, because it was the only way that customers could get through to businesses with staff on furlough and shops closed in the really early days, the disastrous moments. Well, to cut a long story short, that calmed down after a while, and then the story became that it never calmed down back to previous historic levels. So customers had probably changed forever because they'd got used to talking online, getting in touch with businesses there, and realizing that they could have a conversation and could get service from the business. Now what we're seeing is we're almost entering phase 3, and when we look at the detail that we publish every week, we're seeing a differential now between agents. So if we do a tracking of our top 25 clients, where we actually track their website visits, because we get into their Google Analytics and see the volume of web visits that they're experiencing, and then the proportion of live chat that happens as a consequence. And so you're starting to see a difference between what you referred to right at the start of this, between the best agents and perhaps those who aren't quite so engaged with the channel. And their ability to service customers online. You actually see a difference also in the volume of web visits. And I guess that's typical of the market that we're experiencing right now. Not everybody will be seeing the boom that has been talked about in the press for a long while. So I think that probably answers your question. We're in phase 3 now, and it's really opposite to this particular webinar, because everybody's got to now look at 2021 and go, where am I going to put my money? Where am I going to put my investment in customer experience? Do I need to be better in that area or not? I'm really interested in some of the comments the agents have made, and understanding, how they feel about that.
I mean, before we talk about marketing, let's go to John Paul first. Did you change the amount of money you spent on your marketing? And I don't want to know figures, but also, did you change the mix of within what you were spending?
Yeah, we went up about 38%. We spent more on marketing than what we used to. The message massively changed. It was a little bit like what Luke had said. It was not about selling houses. Like, hi, how are you doing? So we use an automated a bit of software that sends letters out, and our letters just got pulled from Salesy to, look, how are you? Is there anything we can do? We're offering to, take food parcels to people, all interviewing local businesses, and that got us a lot of social kudos in the community. So it was genuine. It wasn't to try and get business. It was literally if we could help. And if you go on our Facebook page, it was all about the food donations. Some of our branches are in quite deprived areas of the Northeast, so it's a very community-centric, community-driven area. So it's all about, looking out for your fellow humans and your community at large.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually took someone on to actually drive your social media, as opposed to it being just a next job at the end of the day?
Yeah, we did. We wanted the negs to focus on what they can do with what they've got. We didn't want them to get their workload get diluted in any way, shape or form. I know you're going to talk about what's planned for 2021, but immediately it was a case of, right, what can we do the rest of this year to try and salvage it? And what can we do for next year? And it's new initiatives, new opportunities, new income streams.
Okay, Mike, anything to add to that?
Yeah, probably slightly different to John Paul, in as much as we've slightly segmented our social media. So every office has its own page, and we do have a centralized marketing person who deals with like the heavy lifting, there's your bingo there, for the paid, your Valpals of this world and all your remarketing, etc. But we very much kind of target the local branches on getting a certain amount of reach by their kind of own organic content, be that kind of Facebook Lives, property posts, etc. And some of the pages just go mad. We had one at the beginning of the year reach 4 million people, but it's got to come from the offices because people can smell it if it's done by the marketing department.
Luke, do you have separate, and we'll go to Luke first, do you have separate accounts for your offices or one for the whole company?
One for the whole company.
And JP?
We've got 4 brands, but yeah, one per brand. So Castledean's got 5 branches, just one for that.
Good stuff. Let's go to Ben Sellers, who's a whiz kid when it comes to social media. Would you recommend one per branch or one per brand?
I think it's really what you, as a business, what can you handle? What can you really, cope with? And so, it's been a journey, I think, social media for everyone, really. And so you've got to start off creating your foundations, feeling comfortable about creating content that's actually valuable and engaging. Ultimately, if you can feel comfortable with that, and we're listening to Mike and others, I'm always encouraging people to create it within. The greatest thing about lockdown is everyone's felt a lot more comfortable about being on video, and everything local. The more real it is, and the less selly it is, and the more storytelling it is. So once you've got to that point, then I would say go local. Definitely actually create your individual ones for your individual branches, but don't have tumbleweed rolling down your channels, because that's actually counterproductive.
Okay, so if you the ideal Happy Valley is one per branch, yet if you're going to have one per branch and it looks like tumbleweed and Floss hasn't filled it in for the last 10 years, it's better to have one that's good, one for the network, one for the company. Yeah, because obviously, John Paul, you and Mike, you've got multiple branches. Someone in Telford is not going to care about what's happening in Shrewsbury, and vice versa if you're going hyper-local. Let's come on and talk about hyper-local in a lot more detail. I want to bring in Amy Shields here from Sprift. The power of property data in trying to attract vendors to you. Sprift, you're very good at producing reports for buyers and sellers. Why is it so important that, and again, I must stress to you, it's not all about property data, it's everything, it's the people side, but we are in a subject that people are very interested in, which is the property market. How can property data attract vendors and landlords to an agent?
I think it's probably building up a trust relationship with your potential seller or potential landlord. And then with regards to buyers and tenants, it's about upfront and being transparent. So actually it was interesting, Luke mentioned right back at the beginning about fall-throughs and how his fall-through rate has dropped this year. And that's something that we're quite focused on. And providing upfront data to buyers so they actually know everything about the property before, well, most of the time before they even view it, because that's another concept that we're working on as well. It just builds that sort of trust relationship up with the seller or potential landlord. So if you're, from an instruction winning point, showing examples of this upfront data that you have, it just shows that as an agent, you go that extra mile, you are forward thinking, you're doing something a little bit different that's is quite new to the industry as well. So instead of just photos and floor plans and your little description and bullet points, you're now providing anybody that's interested in their house all this information with regards to the plot size, the flood risk, everything they need to know, the council tax band, if it's grade listed, TPOs, schools, transport links, you name it. So yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think the upfront data, we're having a lot of conversations with conveyancers as well now, and how we can help with fall through rates, speeding up transaction times, and I think agents now actually are wanting to be more upfront and transparent. Luke's recently onboarded with us, and actually being able to have all this data at your fingertips instantly right there. The feedback that we do get is that it's super helpful and builds up relationships.
Isn't it interesting, in the home buyer survey done by the Property Academy, which Dataloft, which is an ICG member, actually made look dead sexy, and I must admit, great shout out to Rory and team and Sandra and the team, is that the number one thing that made a landlord choose a letting agent was their local knowledge.
Yeah.
And when it actually, that's the property market, and when it came to house sellers, I think it was just over 84% said it was important for homeowners. Isn't it amazing that we're the gatekeepers to the second most interesting topic in the world, to the Brits, after the weather, the property market, yet all we do is talk about ourselves. I'm amazed by that.
It's the use of that data as a person. So I know, being an agent and sat in someone's living room, that they buy into the person. The brand often is completely irrelevant. They don't want to see your market share stats. They don't want to see all these graphs and statistics. They buy into the person. So if you're trying to build up that trust relationship and you've got the data there to help build that relationship, and it is a conversation starter as well.
The reason is, if you want people to be interested in you, you have to be interesting. And
it's all about them. It is all about them. It's all about them, their move, their house, how you're going to help them move. It's once you've given them the price, it is just all about them. And if like you said, they choose their agent based on that trust relationship and that agent's knowledge and what they know about the local area.
You're right. Okay, let's move on and talk about processes. And again, we've got a couple of hotshot PropTech people in here, with Kristjan Byfield with the depository and Stephen Rad. Let's just touch on processes, especially for letting agents. Steve, how do you think letting agents can improve their PropTech to help them be more efficient?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, this year was an extraordinary year to demonstrate what importance is highlighted on preparedness and procedure. And I know, hands up here if anyone here has a business continuity plan, should the SHIT hit the fan.
John Paul.
Yeah.
John Paul,
not many people do.
Process on how to write processes. He's the king of processes.
That's good. Okay, we'll come to you, JP. But that's the point, isn't it? Had you had the right technology in place with the right integrations and everything in place, your preparedness would have been there. You would have been able to hit the ground running. And I think one of the things that the lockdown suggested highlighted as well is procedure is important. When you're all in an office together and things are coming in and flying at you and you're using different systems, it's very easy to get on and be in that flow of doing that business. But as soon as you're apart and you're all working from home and you're not there overseeing each other, suddenly you rely on that procedure really importantly, and even taking on new stuff, whatever it is, the training element is cut down significantly by having the right software. And you're going to use different systems, because as good as Repit is, it doesn't have a handheld app for doing inventory or inspection reports, for example. What it does have now is it does have Repit foundations, and it does have an integration with Inventory Base that makes it, okay, we don't have to write a new procedure anymore in this whole heap of extra training to have this person double key the property into this other place to go and use this software effectively. And then to do the work off the back of that, it's actually carry on with your normal procedures, because all of that just works in the background, and this is what you should focus on, is doing your job, and you don't need to worry about that stuff. It just connects and it flows, and the data should be where it is. And for anyone who's noticed the video flying around behind me, another benefit of Repit from the marketing side as well, you go onto Repit's marketplace and you see inventory-based work streams, and you can click and you can book, for example, a drone to go up and fly across your house. And I'm 5 hours from this property, so I don't want to drive there ever again. But I can have someone go out and film the property, film the roof. Say that again.
A lot of moss on that one compared to next door. I think we need more insulation.
Exactly, and I don't want to drive 5 hours, Chris, to go and just to see a bit of moss. So now I can send this over. I can get the obviously marketing from beautiful height, but once the roof's clean, I can get the marketing pictures done again. But again, it's inspections, it's seeing that, and it comes back, and it's all then put into Repit right there for me to view without having to go off and figure out what am I doing with that information. It's just pulled in, and my clients can even see it if that is set up ready to do. So that's the importance of integrations and having the right tech there.
Good stuff. Let's just quickly go to Kristjan. How's the depository helping letting agents with their processes? And then I want to go to JP, who's the king of planning and processing and staff. Just have a few minutes, and then we'll do the last 10 minutes talking about what we're going to do in the future. Kristjan.
So I mean, we built the depository very much with our agent hat on. You know, we looked at a process in our company which demanded a lot of hours, was insanely thankless, caused a lot of tension, and you know, we wanted to know if we could solve that problem. And you know, the research we did initially was quite surprising. We sort of estimated in-house we were spending 2 to 3 hours. The research we did market-wide,
2 to 3 hours doing what?
2 to 3 hours concluding a tenancy. So taking a tenancy from notice to refund or into a dispute. We estimated was 2 to 3 man hours per tenancy in our organization. Industry research showed that actually industry-wide that was more like 3 to 4 hours. And so we wanted to drill that down. And that's exactly what we're doing. You know, we've now brought that down to under 30 minutes. We've just this weekend rolled out an integration with Steve Inventory Base, which I've just been having a little play with just before this meeting. And I have to say, I got little tingles because it was, with that integration, we've just been playing around with it now. I reckon we've now brought that down to under 15 minutes per tenancy. While simultaneously, the feedback that we're getting from our member agents, from their tenants and landlords. I mean, we had a comment from Ferndown Estates yesterday, who were, I think, the first external agent we signed up. You know, and not only are they loving the time savings, they were raving about the fact they've got tenants and landlords coming to them going, this is amazing. I know exactly where I am in the process. It's really easy to do. So, you know, we've looked to deliver on the side of two things. I do just also add one thing, just coming out of tech and really adding on to the back of what Amy was saying before. One thing I believe passionately, and again, this is my agent hat on, booming markets are exciting, but booming markets, I truly believe, cheapen what we do. A really fast-paced market, be it sales or lettings, you have every Tom, Dick and Harry flood our industry. You have everyone drive down fees. You have people win instructions cheaply by overvaluing them because they know if it's not worth that now, in 6 months, the market will catch up and they'll eventually sell it. So as long as they can keep that client engaged, they'll win. Tough markets, challenging markets, on the other hand, turn that entirely on its head. And this is where it gets really exciting, because the things Amy was talking about the data that you can leverage out of things like Sprift, vendors now have the time to engage in that, and that becomes a genuine transition. As we touched on, your local market knowledge, genuinely understanding, not just walking in a door and telling a client what they want to hear, but walking in a door and telling a client what they need to hear because of what you know about the market and what is happening. That is when you get to leverage your expertise, be that data insights, be that market knowledge. And that's where also you no longer need to be treading this line so many agents do in this country, where it comes down to fee. Oh, yeah, you know, we could give it to you, but so-and-so is offered to do it for 1%. So you're going to have to match them if you want it. Or so-and-so is going to let and manage my property for 8%. You've got to match that. In tough markets, you can turn around and go, well, that's great. You come back to me in a month when your property's been sat empty for a month, or you've not had a viewing in a month, and you instruct a proper agent at 2.5% or at 15%, depending on what service you're looking at, and we'll do a proper service and we'll get you, you know, through that journey. And I think, you know, there's a lot of agents out there who made it through 2008 to 2010, and I think the majority that I know, that actually, as terrifying it was at the start, the end of that 2-year period, actually looking back on it, it was actually a really exciting phase for the company. They evolved, they established their market expertise and industry knowledge, and leveraged that into a grown client base, a higher fee retention, greater respect and understanding of what you do as agents. So as much as agents should be preparing for 2021, don't be terrified by the doom and gloom that some people saw from Rishi Sunak's announcement yesterday of 2.5 million unemployed and blah, 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 blah. Yes, those things are scary, but if you're good at what you do, roll up your sleeves, get prepared to do the hard work, but you do it and your business will boom in the next couple of years.
Okay, let's move on to 2021. And we're going to talk about how you're going to adapt 2021 for those things. Some of you might want to consolidate as agents. Some of you might want to expand. Some of you might just want to tread water. I'd like to go to JP first. And I'd like you to particularly focus, JP, because I don't know if anyone's aware, but JP has masterminds, and he basically he mentors and guides agents, and a lot of my clients use him. He is, even though you have to have, he has, because he talks in a northern accent, so for using the southerners, you might not understand him. But for us in the Midlands, honestly, follow JP. He's an absolutely amazing guide and support. He helps me out as well. JP, what are you going to do in 2021 to improve your staff and processes?
His elocution lessons, according to you.
I like the beard, mate. Is that November?
It's Movember. With me and the rugby lads, I'm trying to catch up with Kristjan. I'm about 10 years behind him.
It looks really good, mate. Well done.
Oh, cheers. What we're doing for next year, I mean, we've got some big growth plans. We've got a 2-branch acquisition going on. We've got a couple going on, potential talks. But I just want to echo what Kristjan said. When the tide goes out, you find out who's skinny dipping. And you almost need this little bit of a correction to get rid of the crap agents and the cowboys, to be blunt. And if it's harsh, and I'm going to get more haters than I am people supporting this, but it's true. Every industry has the dregs of that industry dragging it down. And the next one.
Do you think, let's be honest, we had that 3 or 4 month and Rishi all paid us some money to keep us going. Do you think this flurry over the summer, which we were expecting to kill the bad agents off, and it's just almost kept them going, do you think this has kicked the can down the curb?
Kick the can down the road. It's just kick the can down the road. It's literally, it's a false economy. We're on a false high, and we're going to get that. We're at the adrenaline rush phase, and then we're going to have this massive come down, and then it's just going to be the really crap agent. The thing is, when he's extended it to March, it's just going to be Q2 and Q3 that the bad agents are going to go out of business and look to sell. Start if you're looking to acquire and you're looking to expand, start having conversations now, just as we are, sending those letters out. Yeah, we're not getting a lot back. January, February, I think we'd be getting a couple more responses and a couple of phone calls. Fancy going for a coffee, JP? It'll be all of those next year. And if they buy, I'll go have a chat with them.
Huge tip now. Just like we always say, it's a people business in a estate agency. It's a people business when you're buying your competition, and you've got to build a relationship now. Sow that seed of doubt. Why do agents get staff and processes so wrong, and what can they do better in 2021 to improve, JP?
Well, they get the staff wrong because they don't invest in them, right? The number one thing is staff are more important than processes. They're equally as important, but staff drive the processes, staff make the processes, staff follow the processes. I know you think I'm all about the processes, but it's the staff first and then the processes, and they've got to be written in a certain way. And then they've got to be, you've got to audit them, you've got to measure and manage the people. But you have to have them in any business. These PropTech guys will have them coming out their ears because it's integral to their business model. Agents in general are not great at it, and we need to get better as an industry.
Okay, let's go to Kristjan, and then again, let's open it all up. Why is staff over processes and tech the most important thing?
Staff as a leader give you the insight. Particularly as your company grows, you cannot understand the minutiae of what is happening in every workflow, in every department in your company, without your staff giving you that insight. And if you've got the right staff, they'll not only be doing the job, they'll be coming to you saying, do you know what, I've looked at this and I think it'd be much better actually if we did it this way. They'll come to you and they'll have those suggestions. So that's where the value of staff comes from. I think where I would sort of call out leaders a little bit. I think this relates more to lettings than sales, but I think it applies to both sides of the business. If as a leader, be you an owner or a manager, if the two sentences, we've always done it this way, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If those two sentences regularly fall out of your face, slap yourself, because everything can be done better. Everything can be done better. It doesn't matter that you don't perceive it as being broken. That's probably because you're not looking at it hard enough. And going back to what we were just saying, it's probably because you're not listening to your staff. Your attitude is, I pay you to do a job, just do it.
Let's go to Simon Taylor. He's got something to add on this.
Yeah, JP said it. It's people and staff who run the processes, and some great agents came to us just after lockdown and said, "Can you help us measure our staff?" And this was in a very collaborative fashion. The staff knew all about it because they said loads of stuff has changed. We're now doing virtual valuations and viewings, and we've got people who are unsure how to do this, and the customer suddenly gets a very different experience. And they were amazed by what they learned in terms of what their staff needed confidence and reassurance and support and coaching in, and it made a world of difference. And it's very easy to gloss over those things.
Okay, let's go to Luke. It's Luke St Clair in Leicester. What are you going to do in 2021 to ensure that your staff are even more cutting edge? And they are bloody good, if you don't mind me saying, but even better.
JP mentioned it. It's about that investment. So in the training. So we're continuing that investment. I mean, some of the training I will do and then pass that on to the staff, but then they'll get it firsthand as well. So I did a Josh Fegan training course live. So I adjusted my time clock to Australian time for 2 days to go through it in a live experience to then be able to pass that on. We use the likes of Julian O'Dell, Stephen Brown, Kevin and his team have done training with our team on landing new homes and spotting opportunities and the language to use. But it's then also about the appreciation aspect as well. So it's about taking time to actually get to know your members of staff and what makes them tick, because what motivates one person is completely different to someone else. And also recognising and rewarding, and that's not always about money. It may be time off. It may be a regular coffee, breakfast baps, anything like that just shows that you're human, and also just to ask how they are. So we did an interesting exercise where we had a growth meeting, 15 minutes. It wasn't about their job, it was actually asking them how they are and how do they rate their work and personal life at the minute on a score of 1 to 10. And the people, and some of it ended up in tears, where people started off with an 8 on their work life. But when we actually asked them, okay, well, is it really an 8? So what does a 9 or a 10 look like? And then they start listing all the things off that make it look like a 9 or a 10. And it turns out that they've asked to regrade their score to a 4. And you can work with people and help them, because a lot of people are fighting battles that you don't know about. And if you take the time to find those issues out, you'll be a far better leader, and then you'll also get the best out of the team as well.
Okay, I want to go to Mike and then Kristjan. Please make it short because we're running out of time.
Yeah, well, I think as far as your plan for 2021 is concerned, I think it's got to be clearly communicated. We could have one for a start. It's got to be clearly communicated. It's got to be compelling, and we've gone one step further by actually having a 5-year plan, which we've just started putting into place. So, which is very much geared towards a staff kind of meeting us halfway and actually growing their careers and opportunities in our patch.
Lovely, Kristjan, real quickly.
Talk to other agents. It's definitely something I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. Agents are talking more to each other. If there's an agent you like the look of, it doesn't matter how big or small they are, it doesn't matter if they're in the same town or the other side of the country, pick up the phone, have a chat. We're all facing the same stresses, and a lot of us are very, very happy to knowledge share and have a quick chin wag for 10 minutes. So talk to your fellow agents. We're a lot more friendly than I think some of us give each other credit for.
Okay, in a second, I'm just going to go around and ask everyone what you think the market's going to do in 2021. But the one thing that I just want to say about this stuff is no one will ever appreciate how much you do, nor should you ever expect them to do so. This is your journey. This is your road. This is your dream. And you cannot and should not expect people you employ or work with to clap you along the way. You have to have an emotional maturity enough to be able to move forward without needing validation for your efforts. This is your baby. They're never going to work as hard as you. But if you guide and support them and be their leader and not their manager, you'll win. Right. Okay. So I'll get off my soapbox. Let us start ladies first. And I'd like to start with Amy Shields. What is the market going to do in 2021? And what's your one piece of advice for agents to be able to not only survive, but thrive?
I think next year is going to be incredibly exciting. I'm actually quite upset I'm not still an estate agent, to be honest. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting year. I think the agents, the good ones, are going to survive and thrive. I just think that it's going to be a really interesting and fun year. My top advice actually is with regards to staff and people, and something I've been very fortunate with, but that's the mental health of your staff. And I always, as a manager, had the attitude that happy staff equals happy customers. If you've got happy staff and you look after them, I go nuts at my staff when they don't go out for their daily walks at lunchtime at the moment, especially as we're in a second lockdown. I think having an awareness of all your staff's mental health, I think what Luke just said, getting them to rate it 1 to 10, brilliant idea. Just have an understanding of where your staff are and how they are mentally.
Lovely, thank you, Amy. Interestingly, the Agents Together charity are publishing in the next few weeks a survey of the mental health, where they did a huge survey of estate agents. And whilst I can't let you know the results yet, because they're embargoed, the results are truly amazing. Trevor Ewins, what's the market going to be in 2021, and what one piece of advice would you give to agents to make sure that they can survive but only thrive? You know what I mean? Go on.
A lot of what we have been hearing today is really encouraging, and I think if we turn it to technology, I think, as I said earlier on, a lot of what we've seen happen is going to help us in the market next year. Market, this will be my 4th property recession if we go into one, which I'm hoping we don't. And you just have to do the best you can through it. Make it all about the people. The good people will survive. It's as simple as that. So,
Trevor, you must have gone into agency as a child, young man.
87, 2001, 2008. And 87 to 89, there's a few people on here who will remember that. It was carnage. So
yeah, I was there, baby.
Yeah.
Right, let's go to Matt Goddard.
I think, quick summary, there's going to be a flight to quality. And you need to double down and focus on what it is that makes you a quality estate agent.
Good stuff. Kevin Ellis.
I think it's going to be a year of opportunity. I think Dale, whether there is a recession or not, Trevor and Amy, who we all worked with Dale at the time, he got off on a harder market, and I think that's where the cream really rises. And I think overall it is a significant year of opportunity for agents.
Good stuff. Opportunity and cream rising to the top. That's your next ICG bingo. Let's go to Steve Rad from Inventory Base.
I'm going to be more negative and say it's going to be unpredictable. We still have Brexit around the corner. We still have a lot of other things going on. And so focus on your procedures. Procedures equal, better trained people, business continuity, better preparedness.
Good stuff, good stuff. You're obviously a brother of John Paul there, because he'd love you for that. Simon Taylor.
I think the market's going to be very unpredictable. It's a brave man who knows. Nobody could have predicted the boom that's going on right now. So I do think that a lot of things that have changed are going to carry on in an enduring fashion. This shift online, all the virtual stuff, it will keep happening, even though we think the major move has calmed down. Tips and advice for planning 2021: measure where you are currently. Check you're using the right KPIs, because so much has changed, and then use that measurement to benchmark yourself against the current situation and where you want to be, what your ambition in 2021 is. Use simple techniques. You can do them yourselves, like custom journey mapping, working out what you're doing, how to do it best.
Thank you. Kristjan Byfield.
I think London faces a particularly challenging year next year. I think couple of years, if I'm honest. But just reiterating what I've said before, challenging markets, and London is made up of a myriad of micro markets, unlike really anywhere else in the country. For those agents who can figure out how to leverage and help their clients out of the challenges their local market is facing, they're the ones who'll come winning out of this. And what time you're not spending doing deals, you've got to be spending on your business, refining your processes, drilling it down, training your staff, refining your team.
Mike Nettleton.
I think we'll never have a better first quarter in our careers than the one that's about to happen. So what happens after that, that might be a different thing. But the biggest gap in the market, just to echo Matt's comments, is just being good. If you're good, you're in a very small league of people in your town.
Let's go to Ben Sellers.
Yeah, I think that you've just got to stay focused. There's always an excuse, isn't there? An election, a Brexit, a pandemic, and something. Just forget about all of that. Stay focused on the services, the products that you offer in your local area. Make sure that you're really thinking about your communications. Give, and it will come. Make sure you've got a content plan. I will say that, but there's so many great different types of content that you can be using: data, stories, people, property, you name it, and your communities. And I think it's going to rock next year, is my personal opinion.
Good stuff. Let's go to Luke St Clair, the King of Leicester.
So plan and have clarity around that plan with all of your team, because there's no point just your managers or the MD knowing what that plan is and not sharing it. So make sure that everyone involved in the business knows what the objectives and plan is for 2021. And for us, it's going to be data, relationships, and maximising those and using them to our full advantage.
Okay, final word from JP.
What's the market going to be? I haven't got a clue. I'll be honest. I don't have a crystal ball. All we can do is just deal with what's put in front of us. Just tighten everything up. Be the best you can be. Your KPIs, your leadership, communication, management, the whole shooting match. And on a personal note, I want to finish one of Luke's newsletters.
Sorry, it's an in-running joke in some of the groups that Luke has newsletters which are 8 pages long, and it's certainly a polarizing opinion, but I think opinion is fantastic. At least we're all different. What I would say to any estate agent here is, if you want to know anything about great PropTech, do speak with the ICG. I'm not being paid to say that. It's just that there are a bunch of great PropTech suppliers. They all work together and they've got the best interests of the industry at heart. I know for a fact I don't even need to ask, but if you want to contact Mike, Luke, John Paul or Kristjan about their estate agency, they are so generous with their time. It's unbelievable. And just ring them up and say, I need your help, and they will talk to you. They're very generous with their time, because in this world, if you don't ask, you don't get. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been watching this webinar, those of you watching it live, but also those of you watching it recorded. I hope you've got something from it. 2021 is going to be a tough year. Yes, as Mike said, Q1 is going to be absolutely amazing. But at the end of the day, I find it very strange that estate agents think long-term is their pipeline. You've got to get through Q2, Q3, and that's in 2022 and 2023. So you're making hay now. Start planting seeds for the future, and we'll see you on the other end. And hopefully in 23, 24, the market will be back. The very nature of the property market is that it is cyclical, and the bottom line is this: is that if you can survive the bad times, you can thrive in the good times. I just want to say thank you for everyone. So if everyone could wave goodbye, I want to thank you, Diana from ICG from Starbury, for sorting this out. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone. So wave goodbye to everyone, and we'll see you next time on the next ICG webinar. Thanks very much.